Hello. Good evening. Howdy, howdy. Hello, Secant, Mr. Rookie, Sunshine, Feasum. That sounds like a trap. Hello, Falco, Epic Pikachu, J-Cam. Howdy, howdy. Working and lurking. I watched Talk speed up while I was lurking and working. So, it's only fair. Although I have a feeling I'll say something at some point that'll make you go, oh, I gotta stop working. I gotta type that in chat. I can't believe he said that. Got all my links set up how I wanted to look at them, but now I got them all screwed up. How did Panda Express do? I'll look at those guys. Alright, let's get this fixed. You know, I didn't get to listen to any of the commentary after Barry and Mel were on. We had something come up and we had to run out of the house for the evening, and I had to watch the rest of the tournament on my phone, muted in the lobbies, but I'm assuming 9 and Austin, hello 9, in chat, did a fantastic job. Worcester, like Worcestershire sauce. Caver. Come on, Caver. I'm waiting. Caver. Austy's a hype commentator. I didn't get to hear any of it, but I'm assuming Austy was just as hype as ever. Brings energy. I like energy. I like, from commentators, I like energy that's authentic. Like Brushstrokes does a really fantastic job of just natural enthusiasm. Obviously Magic too. You can just tell Magic's geeking out whenever he's on commentary. And it makes it a lot more enjoyable for me. Yep. Alright, now we need gamma bracket. Any Massachusetts names? Oh, were you guys reading off like a Shine ad or something? I was to say the New England area. I guess that encompasses eventually. Shine is somewhere in there. Hello, Gold Ebb exists. Ranked Mario Golf? I haven't played Mario Golf since the GameCube one. Alright, I think we're done writing this. No such thing as ranked solitaire, Pikachu. Just made that up. What, are you just ranking yourself against yourself? What is that even? Oh. I bet you just leave the jokes to me, alright? Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you're sharing your disdain for Clam Blitz Piranha Pit, sharing Bratwurst to support Starburst, speculating on how IPL managed to get the stats up on the stream. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. unless I don't. Hey, quick little by the way about the stats that are on stream. A lot of people had questions about how IPL was able to pull off the whole stats on screen thing. And what I like to do whenever somebody asks something about IPL's production stuff, I always volunteer to answer that question as the highest ranking person in IPL that knows absolutely nothing about anything production related. So allow me to answer that question for you guys. We are in staff VC, and every different person is assigned one task of something they got to keep a track of. Me personally, I kept track of the second spent dead, which is a horrible stat to put on screen. That was the stat I did. So what I do, I just looked at all 8 of the little icons on top, and when somebody died, I counted out loud in my head. 1, 2, 3. All right, they came back. Now, how do you do that with 8 people? You got to be really good. And I'm really good. So everybody just had a different stat. You had to submit it, and then it just got sent up on the screen. So that's how the stat thing worked. There's the answer you're going to get. News of some tournaments that may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. I only got really one tournament, unless you want to count the Nintendo tournament that's going on this upcoming weekend, Friday and Saturday. Yes, those things are still going on. Yes, there was a tournament that took place on Saturday. We'll talk briefly about it. Both commentators for that event are in chat right now. That's awesome. SAC number 3, the third qualifier, is going on this weekend. That is going to be Saturday, I believe, at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So make sure you sign up for that. I'm assuming most of you are eligible for that, and a lot of you are eligible for it, and for some reason don't play in it because you just sit in +3 and just upvote your friends over and over again, even though you never play in any tournaments. Okay, cool. Cascade Duck Crew won the last one, but I think Synergy is currently sitting at the top of the scoreboard because they finished third place twice, so they got more points than anybody. Unlimited Women United should be somewhere in the top 3 as well, I feel like, points-wise, but hey, there it is. Make sure you're playing it. Today, we are going to be discussing all things Superjump 2. Giving you my perspective from the TOing desk, not the help desk. The help desk was fine. It's always been fine. And I'm going to reveal the teams that I feel like stepped up the most. The teams who let their game do the talking for them. They didn't have to go on Twitter and say, this is my div estimate. This is the level I'm at, high level, I'm at mid level, blah, blah, blah. No. Play the game, show us what your results are. We're going to give credit to teams that got some great results across all 4 brackets. But first, that was a pretty good weekend, huh? It was awesome, as Magic 8 Ball tweeted out yesterday. It felt like one of the older events, one of the things that got people excited about competitive Splatoon to begin with. It was if there was a way I could quantify the amount of work that went into this event, if there was a unit of measurement I could use, I think crap ton is an appropriate unit of measurement to describe it. I feel like crap ton kind of just describes perfectly the amount of work that went into this one. With any major event that takes place, a lot of misconception is spread around. It's nothing new about that. Every time there's a low ink, somebody tweets out something. This happened in low ink, or oh my gosh, the TOs did this in low ink, and it's always almost 100% factually incorrect. Which, is a TO, you can't really care about what people put out on Twitter because people are idiots, but not you guys. You're just idiots in chat because you listen to me. But I do want to take some time to at least explain some things from my perspective of what went on this past weekend. I think it's always good to offer up more ways to be clear about things, more clarity, more peeling back the curtain and showing like some things behind the scenes of what's kind of going on with some of these events. Not that I'm sitting here leaking IPL stuff. No, once again, as I always say, this is just my personal thoughts and opinions on these things. And I'm not leaking any IPL secrets other than just the how the stats work, which I just did. The biggest question I think people had going into this event: why is registration closing 48 hours before the event actually takes place? What do we need 48 hours to do? Why do we need 48 hours to work on this event? Some people who missed registration, which we knew people were going to miss registration, were slightly vocal about it and always wondered why we can't just let them in. It's been 3 hours. Why can't you just let us back in after 3 hours? Well, okay. Do we let you in and then you're the last team, or is 3 hours and 30 minutes going to be the cutoff? Like, where's the cutoff going to be? Either we stick to our cutoff or we just let more people in. I digress. The question, though, is why are we cutting off registration so early? What's the point? It doesn't take you 48 hours to seed all these teams in this tournament. You're right. You got us there. It does not take 48 hours to seed the teams. What is it? There was 100 after registration closed, and all the teams that were unfinished got removed. I think we were at 128 teams, and then more, like I think a few more dropped after that, and then of course teams dropped during the tournament. But when we were actually seeding, it was 128 teams. I was a part of the seeding council, as I've been a part of several seeding councils. I've done seeding for 2 Ludi seasons now. Riptide and Low Tide City, I was on seeding councils for that, and the seeding council for this as well. And how seeding works out for all these things: you get a group of people, somewhere between like 5 or so for those other events I mentioned. For Ludi, you got about 10 or 12. And you just go through your personal list. Here's where I see the number 1 team and the number 128 team. And then you take your list and you combine it with all the other 4 seeders list, and you come out with the average seeding of everybody, and there's your seeding, 1 through 128. Boom, easy, simple. And it leaves out room for error. If somebody's biased, I think this team sucks, so I'm going to underseed them. It usually gets fixed by somebody else who's like, I think that team's really good, I'm going to overseed them. So it always works out. Is seeding always 100% accurate and perfect? No, there's no esport, ball sport that can do perfect seeding in any way. But it's about as close of a good system as you can get. Me personally did not need 48 hours to seed these teams. I needed about 1, and that's because I was kind of doing it while also doing other things. I was just kind of seeding while also working on other stuff. Which isn't to say I was a distracted seeding. I feel pretty proud about my seeding. I haven't gone back and looked at like the final results versus my actual seeding. But I did fine, and it took me an hour. If in reality, I probably could have knocked it out in 30 minutes, just to sit there. And if I just sat down and like blocked off everything and just looked at it, 30 minutes is probably what I needed. Are we starting seeding the second registration closes? No, of course not. We all have lives. We have IRL stuff. I got a wife. And a full-time job. So it wasn't like we started right at 9. But it's fair to say that all of the seeding stuff was done within about, I want to say about 7 hours after registration closed. We had the seeding that we wanted. So that's it, right? So it only takes about 8 hours. Let's be generous. 8 hours after registration closes for seeding to be done. Why you need the other 40 hours? The one thing that complicates this tournament and just makes it way more frustrating from our perspective, and probably from your guys' perspective as well over the course of the tournament, that requires that extra 40 hours. It is the fact that there are waves on day 1. that throws a monkey wrench into everything and just complicates it to the nth degree. Now, if this could be fine if the waves were perfectly balanced, right? If there was 50% of the teams were in A and 50% were in B, it wouldn't really be much of an issue, especially if they all lined up perfectly with the seeding. So think about it like this. If your top 10 teams, half of them are in Wave A and half are in Wave B, that's good, right? Yes, if that reflects what the rest of the seeding is built into and the rest of the distribution is that even across A and B, which it's not. The vast majority of teams are in Wave B and only a handful are in Wave A, and that sucks. And that makes this all way more complicated than what it honestly should be. So if half your top 10 teams are in Wave A, you're going to get a little bit more jank, right? I mean, there was one point where Grape Juice had to play I Heart Oranges, two teams that went really deep into Alpha Bracket on Sunday. They had to play each other in Swiss. They're in the same Swiss pools because their pools were so much smaller compared to B's. There were, I think the average amount of teams before drops that were in Wave A was 6 versus the 9 or 8 or 9 teams that you would have in Wave B. Wave A had 6, Wave B had 9. So that's quite a spread, and it makes things more complicated. And you can't just go, oh, well, here's my 1 through 128 seeding. Everybody that's in A just gets placed in that comes first, and the B's second. You can't just plug and place. You have to kind of redo your seeding a little bit to help balance out the groups, again, so that you don't have all those awkward potential huge matchups in the Swiss stage that should be like a losers round 4 match in Alpha Bracket, because you don't want those matches early. And the teams that played in Group A had much more difficult brackets to go through. The top seeds in Group A had much more difficult brackets to go through versus the teams in Group Wave B. The teams in Wave B, it's fair to say they were challenged at times, and I looked through. They did, although all those top-seeded teams went through, I think the only top-seeded team that had to go through redemption bracket was I Heart Oranges, because they got stuck playing Grape Juice in Wave A. So, yeah, you got the waves. You got to split them up, and you got to do as best as you can to balance them out, and that takes a lot of time. And that gets knocked out on Thursday. And then Friday rolls around, and we say, here's the groups. And then you got a bunch of people that say, excuse me, Mr. T.O., I put down that it doesn't matter what group or what wave I get placed in. I didn't realize that actually meant you were going to put me in Wave A. I can't make Wave A. I don't wake up that early, or I'm going to be at work. You have to put me at B, or we're going to drop. You get a lot of that. I think the only team that requested to be moved from B to A was the German team. Yes, they wanted to move back to A, and I think they rescinded their request, unless I'm mistaken. So, like, everybody just wanted to get out of A and be moved to B, and it's like, no, A's already kind of slim pickings to begin with. I think we were able to make it work, but that's the extra work that we had to put in on Friday, was to make all the adjustments. So, yeah, that does take 48 hours to do all of that. Again, if it was just seeding, if this was just day 1 is all the waves, we could put it all together, we could knock that out in an hour. We could close registration on Saturday, like 2 hours before the event, do all the seeding then, and then just throw it together and go. But it's because of that kind of nonsense with the wave system, it makes everything way more complicated. And again, could we have probably waited till Friday to close registration instead of Thursday? Yeah, but then you're talking about doing all of that stuff I said in one day. And that, again, not to be, world's smallest violin, but we're not getting paid. We got full-time jobs. We got other responsibilities. I can't just take Friday off and sit in a VC for 12 plus hours to figure all of this out in one day. It takes more time. And if that means that a handful of teams are going to miss registration, I don't feel bad for you. I'm sorry. If that comes across as me being mean, I don't really care, because I worked my ass off this weekend and several people worked way harder than me over the course of the month. So, and I understand people not knowing what their team is until the last minute. I understand people not knowing what their weekend's going to look like. And I even suggested to some people, like, just register with who you want to play with ahead of time, and if you can't make it, just drop afterwards. And I can understand some people being like, well, I don't really know, I can't register for two different teams ahead of time. So I understand, like, there's no perfect system for everybody, but yeah, we didn't just do the 48-hour thing just for fun. We had no choice to do that, or else just work crazy difficultly hard on Friday. The question is, though, is it worth it doing both waves? I don't know. I'm sure it was convenient for some teams, but the price of conveniency of playing, if you're an EU team, the price of conveniency is you get smaller groups, which means you might get matched up with somebody you don't want to play in that one. Whereas if you stay up later, play in Wave B, you're going to have a much more easier path to Alpha Bracket. Not to mention, not just Alpha Bracket, but Gamma through Beta, or Gamma through Delta got a little jank as well. Because, like, certain seeds, like, lesser teams went down to Beta and Gamma because there's lesser teams in that group, because the top 4 will make redemption. So that means, like, 5th place is Gamma and 6th place is Delta. But if you got, like, 9 teams in your group, then you can have a little bit more wiggle room to make it bump up to Gamma, or you might get screwed over and actually win a game, but you're still falling down to Delta. So it like, everything about the tournament, in my opinion, for day one and Thursday and Friday is diminished just for the conveniency of some people to be. And I get the conveniency of waves. And for lands, it makes a lot of sense because everybody's right there. But when you got a tournament that takes place around the entire planet, you can't find one time that works for everybody. And I'm just not convinced that the price that we paid to have waves in the tournament was worth it. And there's no waves on Sunday anyways. So it's like, if Sunday's time's inconvenient for you, too bad. You have no choice. And if you want to win in Europe, you're going to have to stay up really late. If you want to win in Japan, which they always do, you're starting at like midnight, if not later, when that tournament, when the Alpha Bracket kind of kicks off on Sunday. You're playing on Monday morning. So there's not really a right answer to that. And I'm curious what people's thoughts are on the wave system. Me personally, if we could find a way to just get rid of it, though, that saves a lot of headache. I think for us and you guys as well. Another thing I want to point out, and this is a tweet I saw, and I don't often reference your guys' tweets because they're usually bad, but I like this tweet, and I feel like it was a topic worth discussing, from Jay Wanaldy of Camp Wanaldy. So one of the prizes of this event was the top 2 teams from North America / South America and the top 2 teams from Europe got to move on to the Splat World Championships hosted by Area Cup. But Jay Wanaldy makes a pretty interesting point that I didn't really think about until I saw this tweet. So her tweet was basically, why would a tournament allow JP teams to play in a tournament that was a qualifier to play in a massive JP tournament? If both JP teams take those places, you literally limit 2 NA teams that could have the chance to qualify. It makes no sense. And basically what she's getting at is, you can knock out, if you're a JP team, you can screw up North America and Europe teams from getting higher placements by playing them earlier and knocking them out of the tournament before they can finish ahead of other teams that they're trying to beat in their own region. That's a fair point to make. A couple of things with that, though. First off, it's not just Japan that's messing up North America and Europe's chances at making the top two spots for their region. It's North America and Europe that are screwing over each other. Yeah, you had some JP teams knock out North America and Europe down the losers bracket, but FT Win got eliminated by ICE, an EU team, in losers quarterfinals. Jackpot, an NA team, knocked out Britain Deluxe Edition in losers round 5. So you got two teams that are kind of blocking in teams outside of their own region for the qualifiers. So it's not just, you can't just point the finger at Japan. It's the region versus region that doesn't really make sense for that kind of prize that's being given out here. So Jackpot and Starburst take the NA spots. ICE takes one of the EU spots, and then Britain and iHeart Oranges are tied with each other. And I don't know how that one's going to get solved, or at least I do, and I don't think it's been publicly announced yet, so I won't talk about it. But there will be a way to figure out which one of those two teams makes the tiebreaker. But here's the point I want to make out. First off, this isn't IPL's decision on who gets to move on. I mean, yes, obviously this tournament played a role in it, but IPL was going to host this event anyways. This Superjump 2 and, of course, Superjump 1 was announced without Area Cup or the Splat World Championships decision to be included as a prize anyway. So this event was a worldwide event, and that's the main focus of the tournament. It's Area Cup that came in and said, we're going to use this as the invite system for our tournament. And by the way, Area Cup can invite whoever they want. However they choose to do the qualifier is up to them. And think about this. The qualifier for the last World Cup, here's how it worked out. For the qualifier for the EU region, IPL hosted an event, King of the Castle, that was marketed as the qualifier for the EU region. Alliance Rogue won that one. It was on a Sunday, and it was at a primetime EU time slot, which we've never really seen on a weekend. It was on a Sunday because that Saturday was that was Spawn Points tournament, the Turf War tournament that they had. So that's why that was on Sunday. What was the NA qualifier? I'm like 90% sure this is correct. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But the NA qualifier they used for the most recent Splatoon World Championships was the Nintendo tournament like 3 or 4 months ago. Remember the one where Jackpot got disqualified because they had a player from North America that was from North America, but not in Nintendo's interpretation of North America? That was the qualifier, the one that Starburst won. You know why it's so jank to use that as the NA qualifier? because the issue I just said, there wasn't an NA qualifier. It was just a direct invite. I'm curious about that, because if it was the Nintendo one, that makes no sense. Because like I just said, Jackpot couldn't play with their player from Panama, which Nintendo wouldn't consider to be in their like prize pool basically for the NA thing, but Japan absolutely would. And I'm not sitting here saying that Jackpot would have beat Starburst in that qualifier, but they never got the chance to. So it's weird. Again, even if it wasn't the Nintendo one, it still just kind of highlights that the Area Cup can invite whoever they want anyways. So yes, an ideal qualifier for this, would it include Europe and North America and Japan all playing against each other and then just take the results from that? The ideal qualifier would be region lock tournaments, kind of what they did with EU, King of the Castle. Ideally, it'd be cool if there was like a just one day EU prime time slot on a Saturday. Let them play their qualifier. Double limb or a group into some sort of smaller top cut double limb, whatever. Later that day at the North America time slot, let them do their qualifier. Knock it out right then and there. And there you go. North America fights North America. Europe fights Europe. Works out perfectly. Now, are we getting closer to that? I don't know. But here's why this Superjump 2 thing is fine the way how it is right now. It's because it's at least it's IPL making a connection to the Japanese scene, which is something we kind of don't really have, but we're starting to get. So this is a step in the right direction. Maybe next time we do get those kind of qualifiers I just talked about because of the connections that are being made through Superjump 2. Is it a step in the right direction? Yes. Is it fair to point out, though, like this tweet, that it's an awkward step? Yeah, it's definitely an awkward step, but it's still a step forward, in my opinion. But it's at least a good talking point to bring up. Stats for this tournament. 128 teams, as I mentioned, after registration closed. Almost 700 players participated in this event. 700! That's a super major for Smash, right? 700. That's a lot. Now, Smash is one person per team or two for doubles. And, of course, you need at least 4 here. And I don't know if that 700 includes all the subs that we added in. I'm assuming that it does because you still need an actual account. So I think when we put it in, I think that still counts toward the numbers that shows up on start.gg. But if not, 700 plus is still pretty good. Very good. It's not a record by any stretch of the imagination, but for this late in the game, this late in the stage of competitive Splatoon 2, that is phenomenal. A new viewership peak. I talked about this last week. I said even though participation has gone down across the board in every single tournament, more people are watching these Splatoon events than ever before. The peak was around 850 for grand finals of IPL. I don't know what the average was for Saturday, but we were hovering around 500 plus for a good chunk of time on Sunday. Somebody gifted 50 subs in chat. An anonymous person gifted 50 subs in chat. That was crazy. The amount of hours that went into this event, like TOing hours, I don't know. I know last year Vincent did a breakdown of all of the all the like staffing hours that went into this, of like not just like during the tournament, but all the production stuff, all the meetings we had leading up to this. And it was some crazy number. Like if you're to pay minimum wage, how much it would cost to run an event like this. I estimate personally this weekend, I put somewhere in about 20 to 25 hours. I was there all day Saturday from start to finish, TOing and commentating. And Sunday, I was there from the beginning, and we left. My wife and I had to dip out after the Starburst 4 Tickets to Victory set. I believe is when we dipped, and then we came back and watched some of that stuff later. And again, like the stuff that went on Thursday and Friday, a lot of times in VC, a lot of times spent seating, a lot of times listening to what some other people had to say about adjustments that had to be made. I'd say 25 is probably on the high end. I think 20 is fair. And that, again, there's a lot of people that did a lot more than what I did. A lot more work leading up to that. Yeesh. Now, the one stat I do want to know is how often a certain map was counterpicked. Because it feels like when we got to Alpha Bracket, it was just the same maps over and over and over again. It makes me wonder, why do we even have counterpicks in Alpha Bracket? Here's the map list. Look, we could save so much time on Sunday by not doing counterpicks, but just having preset map lists. And every single round is this. Game 1 is your traditional Splat Zones map. Let's just make it Art Academy. Game 2, we're staying at Art Academy, but we're doing Tower Control. Game 3, Rainmaker Black Belly Skate Park. Game 4, that's where we put in the Clan Blitz Piranha Pit. And Game 5, let's just go Splat Zones Mako Mart just for fun. That's it. That's all it was, over and over and over again. And it makes you think, what's the point of counterpicking Tower Control Art Academy when the other team probably wants to counterpick it as well? It's not like you have a competitive advantage of any of this stuff. But I guess since everybody's doing quad shooter, it doesn't really matter. I think FT Win threw in a curveball. Rainmaker Muscle Forge Fitness. I was confused when I saw that pop up against Ice. Rainmaker Muscle Forge Fitness. Did they do that on purpose? What? I didn't even realize that was in the map pool. Somebody picked Starburst picked Humpback Canal. No, not Humpback Canal. That's not even a thing. Rainmaker Humpback Pump Track against Kings, and that's when they KO'd them there. So, and I think there were some other things picked throughout the day, but those were the main stuff you saw the entire time, and it was just like, oh, I'm getting tired of seeing this. This is getting kind of hard to watch after a few hours of that there. Counter picks on Sunday, it just gave you the illusion that you have free will. You really don't. You're just picking the same things over and over and over again. Overall, this event was a complete success. I think most people agree. I'm sure there's some constructive criticism, feedback. I haven't looked at the forums that people gave for feedback wise. I'm curious what people think personally, what people think of the Delta bracket, it being Swiss with Gamma bracket being the double elimination thing. The problem with Delta bracket is we didn't really know how many teams were going to be left after that. I think only 18 teams ended up playing in Delta bracket after all the drops. So it's hard to do kind of anything with that. You know, like a double limb would be awkward, but doable. So they did 6 rounds of Swiss, best of 5, preset map list, which they got to play. Everybody got to play 6 matches. And there was a team that ended up going 6-0. So there was a true champion, no awkward, who wins the 5-1 tiebreaker. But I'm curious what people's feedback was on that in particular. With the staff side of things, I feel like everybody's satisfied. Obviously, we're going to have like a debriefing meeting at some point this week to talk about what all needs to be changed in Superjump 3. It's hard to get everybody's ideas in, though. Everybody in IPL that was a part of this each had like their own ideas and things that they agreed with others and things that they disagreed with, things that we should do. But it's good to see the tournament play out, and then everybody gets a fresh perspective looking at the tournament of how it actually went all the way through. There were some things I thought were going to be bad that I was pleasantly surprised with and impressed and had my mind changed. There were some things I thought would be good that turned out to suck. So there's a lot of things that don't work out on that you think works out on paper, but in reality, you got to wait and see until it happens to see how it actually works out. One thing I was impressed with was Swiss. Swiss seemed a lot faster on start.gg than Battlefy. And I think the thing is that it populated the next round, and like as the first round was ending, I don't think you were allowed to start a match before everybody else was done, but you at least had the next round ready to go. And that seemed to speed things up a little bit. And there's some other things that JPEG and I noticed that were like, we should think about implementing that into Low Ink. It's the same thing. Like Low Ink used to be Grand Finals best of 7 until I sat there at Riptide and watched Riptide's best of 5 Grand Finals, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Best of 5 Grand Finals is just as epic, if not more epic, than best of 7, because there's less games. You get to a bracket reset quicker. There's more on the line. You don't have to win 8 games to win the tournament. You just got to win 6. Your teams are fresher. They're not burning themselves out, so you don't go, if you do get a bracket reset and goes deep in the bracket reset, you're not just getting competitive solo queue, which some of those Low Inks that went the distance with best of 7 did eventually just become competitive solo queue. And while it's exciting because there's so many games, you look at the quality of play that's going on and you can clearly tell it's diminishing. So the more I see other tournaments, the more I'm thinking, oh, we should try that for Low Ink. That makes things a little bit better. A lot of things I saw in Superjump and JPEG as well, they were like, we should consider this going forward. Not revealing what they are. We still have to work out some of the thoughts that go into that. I loved Redemption Bracket. I thought Redemption Bracket was awesome. And I thought it'd make a lot of sense. Now, that's something you can implement in low ink. So don't think we're going to start taking all the 4 and 2 teams and have another bracket out on top of that. That's too much playing. After 6 rounds of Swiss on Saturday, you can't just add another Redemption Bracket. But if you're doing 4 rounds of Swiss, Redemption Bracket is fantastic. And it cuts out, opponent win percentage is why I made beta bracket instead of alpha bracket. No, you're going to make Redemption and you get to prove that you are an alpha bracket team. You get to try to steal a spot from the team that finished in second place. In Redemption Bracket, I guess anybody could have looked this up, but K-Bot did the numbers for this, so I'm going to say I stole it from him. Of the teams that played in Redemption Bracket, or the teams that made alpha from Redemption Bracket, 11 of those teams were the number 2 seed. The other 5 teams came from 3rd and 4th place. 4 third place teams made it, and only 1 team that finished 4th place in their bracket made it up to alpha bracket. 4th in their Swiss pool made it up to alpha bracket. So 11 number 2 seeds went up, and 5 3 through 4 teams moved up. So that's basically 70% of the second place teams kept their spot, and then 30% of the second place teams had their spot stolen by somebody else because they couldn't hold on to it in Redemption. That's awesome. That seems like a perfect stat line, honestly, for a Redemption bracket. It just adds further justification for most of those teams, and it creates great opportunities for upsets to happen, in teams to kind of steal a spot into the place, into alpha bracket. So Redemption bracket was awesome. I'm glad to see it. Again, it can't be implemented into every other tournament. There's no way we could do it for low ink. But in this kind of environment, I thought it was really clever to have a Redemption bracket, and as a spectator, it was really enjoyable to watch, especially that Fardo versus Metawave set. That was a reverse sweep going into a game 5. So yeah, overall, fantastic tournament in my opinion. Some things that could be used to improve. Some things could be improved here and there, as typical. But as I said last week, this isn't just a major. It's a community-wide event. You're casting a wide net trying to please everybody, which you can't do. But all of the extra effort that IPL put into this, and all of the people we brought in to help put into extra effort into this, I think paid off, and I think created an experience that could be beneficial to as many people as possible. Personally, I saw way too much Splatoon over the course of this weekend. I was watching the grand finals yesterday. I was just starting to get sick of just seeing the same maps and booyahs and missiles coming down. It's just like, hurry this up. Let's see something. One more low ink to go, and then Shine, and then Riptide, and then we'll move on to the next game. We'll talk about all the teams that played in this event. Well, not all of them, but all the ones I feel like talking about who did a really good job. We'll talk about that in a second. We'll get to some highlighted stuff in a minute. My Like Paradise, if I recall, you seeded us as 69th, so I have to raise a nice. That is not true. Whatever seed you got in start.gg is not what you were actually seeded. I promise you that. Seed numbers kind of got a little distorted between A and B. If you look at just the seeding that took place yesterday in Alpha Bracket, Jackpot was listed as the number 11 seed. That couldn't be further from the truth. They were not the number 11 seed. I'm not going to say what specific seed they were supposed to be, but I think it's no surprise to anyone they were at least top 5. They were number 7, or they were number 11. I think Starburst was listed as like number 10. So like the different waves for pools really screwed up the actual number seeding that got put in there. So don't trust that. You might not have actually been the number 69 team, My Like Paradise. I liked it makes up for the fact that we can't bend space-time. I forgot the context of what I was talking about when you posted that message. My bad. Probably bet the waves. Magic posted this during my talk about the World Championships. My hot take on this: the teams need to compete against these high-level Japanese team in the Invitational anyways, so they need to shape up and win out. I also don't think FT Win was the better in a team this weekend. I think the results speak for themselves. This is something that's been done in Smash for a long time. It very rarely ends up in controversy. Fair point. I mean, if you want to make, it's the point I kind of make with Low Ink. If you want to beat Alpha, if you want to win the tournament, you got to beat Alpha bracket teams anyways, whether you face them in Swiss or actually in Alpha bracket. How many more opportunities do you get? But I guess my counterpoint to that is that since this is seen as a qualifier for that event, it is just your region. It doesn't make sense that you play teams that you're being compared to teams outside of your region for that. But it's a fair take to have. FT1 was. You don't think FT1 was the better NA team this weekend? I don't know. I mean, Jackpot finished ahead of them, but FT1 made a statement 3-0 against Jackpot. And it's not to say they would beat Jackpot again in a best of 3. But I don't know. I mean, you could only go off of placements of that. Everything else is up to debate. But good take in general there, Magic. Epic Pikachu. I didn't play in the Superjump, but from what I heard from friends that did play, it was a lot better this time because they had more worthwhile sets rather than getting destroyed by top high level all day long. Yes, the format had to change. Splatoon 1 or Superjump 1's format of just massive groups, that you can't do that again. So I think most people like the format change. High level and low level. High level, they don't want to play meaningless matches 9 times on one day. If they can play 4 and call it a day, I think that's fair. Low level doesn't want to get stomped 9 times. If they can play 4 and call it a day, that's fair. And the teams that finish in the upper echelon of the middle of the pack, they get to fight each other for Alpha Bracket, and we get quality matches on stream. That works out great as well. So yeah, I think the format change was well received by everybody, regardless of where your skill level is. I don't think anybody wants to go back to massive groups. All right. Before we get to the teams that popped off this weekend, let's take a look at some of the other tournaments that happened. It is time for the weekly recap. The final prize pool for this event, as it was just fed to me, $1,674.84. Oh my goodness. That's a good chunk of change for this tournament. Wow. SOS number 76 was won by Gas Prices yet again, who went undefeated yet again for the second week in a row, this time going up against Nawal Gaming, beating them 4-0, who finished second place in this tournament. Rising Wave finished third. Grillers, the Grillers taking fourth place in this tournament. Not too shabby for them. Gas Prices won paddling pool earlier in the day as well, so they ended up going 35-2 per game on the same day between paddling pool and SOS 76. I really wanted to see Gas Prices play in Superjump, and they were registered, but they didn't get all their players in time, so they couldn't end up playing. But I really wanted to see those guys play. Fantafizz, Forge, Luke, and I believe Vortex, but they used like neutral face IGN. Really wanted to see them go up against some top level teams, just for sake of comparison. Hammerhead was won by Azult. Make a Bracket was won by Xenoblade Chronicles 3. When I saw that, I thought, is Avril a part of that? And looked at the roster, and it turned out yes. So there you go. Lantern Bracket was won by Jeux Croutons. The Nintendo Inkopolis Showdown number 3. Super P won this tournament, sweeping DNA, who took second place there. The DNA swept FT Win. A bit of a I don't not nerfed FT Win, but a different roster of FT Win than what we saw the next day in Superjump 2 Alpha Bracket, but still impressive nonetheless that DNA, another team who couldn't play in Superjump, would have loved to see DNA play in Superjump, but they couldn't make it because they had to drop out so that they could play in the Nintendo Inkopolis, and they were rewarded with second place in that as well. Super P, however, is a team that finished second place in the second Inkopolis showdown to Starburst, able, without Starburst around this time around, they're able to win the tournament. I feel like they finished second place a couple of times, so nice that they were able to get a win. The last event for the Inkopolis showdown is this upcoming weekend, and then they haven't announced that there's going to be a Final Four tournament, but I wonder if there's going to be a Final Four tournament. I wonder. I think it's safe to assume it's coming. It'd be more surprising if it doesn't at this point. Hey, the commentary for this one, they seem to be rotating commentators out for that slot that Ashley's traditionally had. So it's been Jordan Kent, 9 Whole Grains. The first week it was Mel. The second week it was Shiny Hunter Zach. Third week, it is our very own Falco Flyer making some representation. We, IPL staff, we had the stream up. We weren't listening to it. I haven't gone back and listened to it yet. But there's Falco's face dead smack in the middle. And he's like, yeah, that's awesome. Maybe, hey, Falco, are you available to come on next week? We should talk about that in Friday Night Frenzy, for sure. Speaking of Friday Night Frenzy, or Five Nights at Falco, season number 4 came to a conclusion on this last Friday. Makes sense, it's on Friday. The team that won the entire tournament, hey, why'd the music stop? Thank you. Team that won the entire tournament, INKD, who I believe just goes by Inked and doesn't go by INKD. Maybe, I don't know. They won 4-2 over Crimson Quake. New Horizons took third place, and Eek Bashers finished in fourth, even though they were the number 1 seed. An epic conclusion to what has been the best season by far, so far of this Friday Night Frenzy seasonal tournament. No word yet on when the 5th season is. I'm assuming Splatoon 3. I don't think you can technically fit in another season at this point. But this is what's to come. Great competitive action across the board. And a lot of those Friday Night Frenzy teams played in Superjump this past weekend as well. So it's good to have those kinds of name brand teams playing in that. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by the lovely staff that we have in the IPL basement. The IPL basement has become a meme over the past weekend, and JPEG's tweet was absolutely hilarious. And just in case people were curious, yes, the IPL basement is a real thing, and your donations help feed those hardworking people working on the stats. IPL basement, the official sponsor of this week's episode of the Weekly Recap. No, Hohen. It's not the right thing to do. Mark is red. Mark is red. Let's go back to Superjump. Call it a day. So, at the beginning of Sunday, I put out a tweet. I said it's Step Up or Shut Up Sunday. Basically, if you've listened to any episode of the Popcast, which I know you have, one of my biggest frustrations is people who act like they've arrived while the boat is still out in the ocean. And just say, this is what div I am. This is the level of Splatoon that I play at. This is the plus server I should be in. It's like, all right, cool, thanks. Thanks for telling us that. Go prove it. And this was your chance to prove it. Now, I'm not going to talk about the team. I'm just going to talk about the teams that stepped up. I'm not going to... It would be not it would be negative to talk about the teams that I think should shut up after their performance for this weekend. So instead of just being negative, let's point the finger at the people who deserve some attention here. Starting with a team name I am pronouncing correctly, Makashera, the team that won Gamma Bracket. Now, if you look at the Gamma Bracket teams here, you think Makashera is probably the odd man out. Freelancing Takoyaki's pretty strong. Cold Coral's pretty strong in here. The Daytona pickup team looked pretty strong in here as well. Obviously, the team that finishes second place, we'll mention them as well. But what do you do? What do you do when you find yourself in a bracket you don't belong? You win it! Prove to everyone you don't belong there by dominating that bracket, and that's what Makashera did, going undefeated all the way through per set. Daytona took a couple of games off of them and then played Hyper BLT's Flowing 2 times, beating them both times, Game 5 in the first bracket of Grand Finals. Makashera stepped up after a tough loss on stream that Magic and I commentated against A2P. They stepped up on Saturday or Sunday and deserve some credit for that. The team they beat, Hyper BLT's Flowing. Who is this? Well, if you're clever enough and you look at it, which took me a awkward amount of time to look into, it's Hyperflow and BLT. That makes sense. I should have picked up on that a little bit quicker. Beat Watercolor, Daytona, Matcha, New Horizons, and the IRS. Finishing second place in Gamma Bracket. I see you, two teams that I think both disband IRL, but have now come back to play in this one. I see you, and I see all the 3-0s you got along the way. Only team that really knocked him out in Gamma was the team that probably didn't need to be there, in Makashera. So Hyper BLT Flowing deserves some credit. Assault and Pepper, A2P, I see you guys. One of the oldest teams we have in competitive Splatoon 2 made a really strong run in beta brackets. Beating Sub Power Up 3-1. They beat Toons 3-0. Now, Toons was a team we criminally underseeded, and they made us pay for it. And they looked like they were a really strong team ripping people apart. A2P 3-0'd them. They beat Vortex 3-2 and then just ran into a buzzsaw of Helix and Metawave getting eliminated from the tournament. But still, A2P made a statement in beta bracket this weekend, and they deserve some credit for it. They also beat Shrimp Burger along the way. And Makashera, like I said on stream, the Gamma Bracket champion, beat them as well. Helix, second place in beta bracket. Barely missing an opportunity to beat Unlimited Woomy United as well. Oh, it sucks. They had DC issues. Carrot, the official producer and the person who made this lovely overlay you're looking at right now, I was talking with her. They just had like random DC issues at the most awkward times. And she's wired too. So it's just like some sort of weather related thing that just popped up at literally the worst time possible that probably cost him a game against Uwu and knocked her out and forced the sub to come in the grand final set against Metawave. So it's like, oh, but that doesn't discredit everything Helix did up to this point. Sweeping My Lag Paradise, Rabid Rabbits and Aaron, surviving Nap Time, beating Metawave 3-2 before losing to them in grand finals, sweeping Assault to Pepper, and almost, again, it seemed like they were beating Unlimited Womb United. When you look at the clip, you think, oh, yeah, they got lead, but it's kind of neutral. But when you see when the DCs actually happen, you're like, oh, Helix was about to score. And if you score in Clan Blitz Piranha Pit, you basically win. So just some tough times, but it doesn't discredit the fact that Helix had a legit strong tournament and have been doing pretty well. I think they're a top 8 right now for SAC. They should finish in top 8 if they play out the other 2 tournaments. Metawave, however, deserves credit where credit is due. After losing to Helix, they bounced back, swept Assault to Pepper, and swept Helix with their sub 2 straight times to win beta bracket. And they looked like a really tough team. I mean, they swept Blue Moon, which is looking like an impressive win all of a sudden. 3-1 over the Flying Dutchman, Shrimp Burger 3-2. But again, they were on stream against Farto and had them beat 2-0 and then just kept counterpicking tower control over and over again and kept losing on it. But fair enough, they turned it around. Again, I see Rising Wave / Meta Wave, which was Metanoria and Rising Wave better. I see that combination of a team as an alpha bracket team, and they prove it by winning beta bracket. Rising Wave in general has just been really strong ever since Ludia's been coming out 9 months ago or so. The Flying Dutchman. Got to give some credit to these guys. This was a pickup team that had Wug, Mr. Lee, Moo, and Sigurd. How do Wug and Sigurd work together? I didn't see them play in action. Did they use double roller? I like, there's a difference between using Carbon and Flingza and like double splat roller. I'm curious if that's what they actually did. But the Flying Dutchman was pretty impressive here. Taking the game off of Meta Wave and then going down to the losers, beating White Lotus, White Lotus, which was a really strong Splatoon 1 German team. They beat them 2-0 and knocked out Wipeout Punks 2-1, as well as Red Sun before getting eliminated by Toons. The Flying Dutchman, they beat somebody else they beat Panda Express during the Swiss stage as well. Panda Express being the lone, Wug plays junior now. Wug played a couple of years ago. Wug was a really good roller player, but I see they're on junior, fair enough. But Flying Dutchman also beat Panda Express, which was essentially a lowest pickup. And how come Oceania doesn't get a world invite to the Splatoon World Championships? Come on, Area Cup. Cold Coral. These guys played in one low ink. The only low ink we allowed them to play in, and they won beta bracket, and we haven't seen them since. Well, we haven't seen them since the low ink because we banned them, but I haven't personally been keeping an eye on them since. Had a pretty good run here as well. They were in Gamma bracket. 3-2 over Cascade. 2-3 loss to Daytona, and then got a couple of wins in losers bracket against Heat Wave and Freelancing Takoyaki and Matcha before losing to Daytona yet again 2-1. Taking Daytona to distance both time and not being able to finish. So Cold Coral made a pretty solid Gamma bracket run. Good to see those guys are still a thing. And hopefully they continue to be a thing going forward into Splatoon 3. The last team I want to point out before we get into the alpha bracket teams. The biggest winner of a team that did not make alpha bracket goes out to Blue Frickin' Moon. What happened here? They tweeted out after they made it to beta bracket. They tweeted out this emote of their tweet of like, "We don't belong here. What's gonna happen? We're just gonna get destroyed. We don't want to be here." Well, it started off that way. You play Meta Wave at the beginning and get 3-0, and then something happened. Something happened to Blue Moon. I don't know what. And you know what? My team played Blue Moon in SAC number 2. And when we played them, it was like, oh, cool, Blue Moon. I really like this team. They used to be my favorite team until a low-level team made an open invite tournament. But Blue Moon, we played them. It was like, all right, let's go. Game 1, Rainmaker, they beat us in like 30 seconds. And then my face just goes, oh. Okay, so then we beat them 2-1, but we played those last 2 games angry. We were very pissed that they took a game from us. But now when I see what they did, I'm like, oh, okay, they didn't just like cheese a game from us. They're legit. 2-1 over Sub Power Up. Interesting. 2-1 over Scenaria. Whoa, okay. Then 2-1 over Nap Time. What is going on here? And Nap Time played really well. Nap Time took Helix to a game 5. They took Micklin Heroes to a game 5. Yeah, they lost the Wipeout Punks on stream, but they bounced back from that, and they were playing really strong. And Blue Moon beat them 2-1. Man, what happened to Blue Moon? It might just be Superjump. Remember, they won, what was the lowest bracket last year? Was it like Epsilon or something like that? they won that. And that's when they kind of came onto the scene. That's when we're like, oh, hey, cool, Blue Moon. They're making cool little things. I'm excited to see what they're going to make about this. But the biggest step up team of the weekend that's not an alpha bracket goes out to Blue Moon. Cheers to you guys. Don't you ever take a game off of me in SAC again. Let's take a look at the alpha teams, and then we'll call it a day. We'll start off with the two teams that didn't have impressive runs in alpha bracket, but the run they made to get to alpha bracket is impressive and noteworthy in its own right. First off, the Cascade Duck Crew. The Cascade Duck Crew. I thought, okay, when I think of Cascade, I think of like the dish detergent. There's actually a thing called a Cascade Duck's an actual thing, apparently. The more you learn. I made the mistake of betting against the Ducks on stream, and that cost me about 20,000 channel points. Oops. And the Ducks backed it up. I mean, the Ducks won the most recent SAC tournament, and they backed it up here, making alpha brackets. They didn't get any wins in alpha bracket, but it doesn't matter. It's the fact that they made alpha bracket that's significant, beating Knights of the Roundy Table and Sub Power Up. The Ducks are legit and are legit contenders to win this whole entire SAC season with what they did here. The other team that's a contender to win SAC season made alpha bracket this time around, Unlimited Woomy United. I talked about how they got a win in redemption bracket against Helix in game 5 with the help of DC issues. That doesn't discredit the fact that they took Helix to a game 5. When you put yourself in a situation like that, if jank falls into your favor, so be it, but you can't accidentally land into a game 5. You can't jank yourself to a game 5. Unlimited Woomy United still got that. And when they beat Helix, they beat the team. They're the only team that was the 4th seed out of their Swiss pool to make it to alpha bracket. They beat OOBI, OOBI, to make it to alpha bracket. And going into alpha bracket, Unlimited Woomy United played Starburst, bless your hearts. And then in losers bracket, beat Azult 2-1 before getting knocked out by Max Morning. But Magic and I were talking about this. We commentated their match against Wisp, but they lost. But that's not the same I remember seeing last October. They're a different animal altogether now. And yeah, they're starting to lap some of us that have just been kind of looking down on them. They're working past all of us here. Grape Juice stepped up, and I feel like Grape Juice hasn't been given enough credit, or I feel like they're just now starting to earn respect, because it feels like they've turned the corner. They were placed in Div 1 last Ludi season, and they made top 4 in that, but they're starting to get some quality results here. They beat I Heart Oranges in the Swiss stage, like we mentioned. They didn't have to go through a redemption bracket. They stole this spot outright. 3-0 Tata Kai, 3-2 Max Morning in an epic set that was on stream. And then they ran into the Kings, and then, yeah, well, that happens. Who knocked out Grape Juice in general? Britain Deluxe Edition did 2-0 on losers bracket, but Grape Juice, they need to start getting some respect. I don't think they've been getting it up till late. But they definitely deserve it with how they've been playing recently. I Heart Oranges. We need to talk about these guys. This was Sindao. I was told Sindao is not how it's pronounced. It's Sindao. Or maybe just the Americans pronounce it wrong. I don't know. But I Heart Oranges, after having to go through a redemption bracket, proved why they deserve to be in alpha bracket here, to nobody's surprise. Who did they end up beating? Uprising 3-0, and then ran into the Kings Buzzsaw, and then went on a deep losers bracket run. OFBO 2-1, Max Morning 2-1, Sushi, the other strong Japanese team, 2-0. So a very strong win for them before getting knocked out by Ice Cube. They are now tied for that second place spot in the World EU region. Tied for the second place EU spot in the World Championships. So I Heart Oranges finishing above their seeding, I want to say, technically, maybe not, maybe right at it, but they they bounced back after some tough losses. They deserve some credit for that. Britain Deluxe Edition. I feel like these guys definitely did play above their sleeve. They 3-0'd the Heritage German team. Ran into sushi, got sent down by that. But in losers bracket again, Knights of the Rounded Table 2-0, Micklin Heroes 2-0. By the way, Micklin beat the Root 2-1, solidifying themselves. Narwhal Gaming wasn't here, so until proven otherwise, I think Micklin deserves the title as best SA team with the result they got here. But Britain Deluxe, they knocked out Grape Juice and then ultimately lost to Jackpot. They are also tied with I Heart Oranges for second EU team for the Splat World qualifier. Now let's talk about the name brand teams, right? Because all of them, in my opinion, stepped up like you would want to see them do. FT Win. This team, this roster that they got here did not have Shaq. It was Keo, Bursty, and then Zeres, who we haven't seen yet play in action with their after being officially added to FT Win. And then is it Goss or Ghost? G-O-S. We got to figure out how to pronounce that player's name because they looked just as strong as we've seen any FT Win player be in the past. And what's been the motto with FT Win? It's not a rebuild, it's just a reload. Next man up. Somebody goes down, well, let's just grab the next person in line, plug in place, and let's just keep moving forward like we always have done. But we knew that FT Win is on their last leg. They're either going to have to replace a couple of players in Splatoon 3 or just disband and form something new. But we knew this was just going to be a passing of the torch kind of thing. You know, heavy is the crown, but they are the GOAT, but their time has passed. It's now the age of the Jackpot and the Starburst. Well, they've come across Jackpot, and I bet a lot of points on Jackpot to win, and I got punished for it, as did Jackpot. FT Win 3-0'd them in probably the biggest statement win of the weekend, in my opinion, because Jackpot was supposed to win that. They beat them last year. They had taken over their place. They were seen as the better team, and then FT Win said, nah, we're the GOATs. You're not ready for us yet. 3-0, have fun in losers bracket. Get out of here. Now, FT Win ran to the Kings, and then Ice, we saw what Ice Cube did to them, knocking them out of the tournament. But that win 3-0 against Jackpot, and I would have loved to see the rematch in winners and losers semifinals, because that would have been really interesting, best of three with a pissed off Jackpot who was rolling at that point. But man, that 3-0 they got over Jackpot, that was an eye-opener. It was definitely an eye-opener. It was legend. I didn't see Exy play the entire weekend. And not that like Exy didn't play, but when they were on stream when I was watching, I didn't see Exy play. So I think, but I did see Legend play pretty much the entire time. Ice Cube finished in the top 4 here. The Alliance Rogue, what's left of Alliance Rogue here, I believe is Obito, Caver, Brian, and oh crap, I forgot who the other player is, but one of you in chat remembers. They beat FT Win. They finished in the top 4, the best EU team. We knew they were thank you. We knew they were the best EU team, but were they better than FT Win? Even a depleted FT Win? We didn't think so. But getting the 2-1 win over them, that is significant. Xylophone Global took care of them. I Heart Oranges 2-0. Squidding Good, OFBO. They did play Starburst as well. Starburst beat them 3-1. But still, I think top 4 is technically playing above their seeding here in this tournament, and is very impressive nonetheless. So they definitely stepped up. You got to give them credit for that. Jackpot. I talked about how they got knocked out by FT Win 3-0, and they got sent down the losers bracket way earlier than what we were expecting. Here's what they did in losers bracket. Squidding Good 2-1. That was it, because Squidding Good had them at 1-1, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh, Jackpot's going to be gone. They're not even going to come close to making like top 10. at this point, or maybe they are top 10 losers round 4. I can't do math that quickly, but they survived Squid and Good to sweep Britain Deluxe to sweeping 4 tickets to victory. This jackpot, the other team from Japan that was really strong. I believe this was a Tic Tacs team. They swept them 2-0, and that was another kind of jaw-dropping result. Maybe the second best result is, or the second best statement win. And again, it's best of 3 instead of best of 5, but still, I don't think people would think Jackpot was going to beat 4 tickets to victory at all. And they did. They swept them out. Then went on to beat Ice Cubes and played Starburst, which they lost to 3-1. Jackpot finishing 3rd place in this tournament. Yeah, that's what we were expecting. That's why it's so surprising that FT Win swept them out, because we see Jackpot as the Robin to Starburst Batman at this point. And they did take a game off of Starburst, but we saw them as that second place spot, and they ended up getting there eventually. But I really wanted to see Jackpot versus Starburst, or Jackpot versus FT Win rematch in that loser semifinals. But hey, credit where credit is due. FT Win got revenge, but Jackpot got the prize in the end. Now let's spend some time talking about America's team, Starburst. It was whenever Starburst plays against a team from Japan, it's like everyone in chat is just, this is us. It's like we are Starburst. It's like they're representing you and me, you know? Or except for the people watching this on YouTube who are waking up and watch this on Europe. Starburst doesn't represent you. They're my team, not yours. But it's like the collective realizes, okay, Starburst doesn't need to waste time with the other teams in the West. Can they start beating these teams from Japan? And they beat 4 tickets to victory in semifinals in Game 5. And what's significant about that is the counter pick format is not like Low Ink. You can pick the map you most recently won on, right? Or you can pick the mode that you haven't most recently won on. So there's a way for teams from Japan to go to Splat Zones twice in a best of 5. And when they went to Splat Zones Art Academy in Game 5, you thought, okay, Starburst is just done. They're not going to win against 4 tickets to victory. And they won. And they KO'd them. And it was epic, and it was really impressive, and it gave you the sense that I was in VC. I watched that win. I was excited they got that win, but I thought Starburst probably they probably sold too much of their soul to the devil to get that win. Like, I wonder, because the MO about Starburst, as I've been talking about for a while now, is they don't have the stamina to go to distance in these tournaments. So I wondered if they burned up too much energy in that semifinals that was going to cost them down the road. That wasn't the case. After beating 4 tickets to victory, losing to the Kings in winners finals 3-1, they came back 3-1 Jackpot and put on a show, a really impressive 3-2 loss to the Kings. The best they've ever played against the Kings in grand finals, even though they weren't able to force a bracket reset. That was the best we've seen Starburst play that deep into a tournament up to this point. And, Clan Blitz at Piranha Pit, you never have the lead on that map. It's a Rainmaker Clan Blitz map. You're never comfortable there. And as long as there's time on the clock, it's neutral across the board for both teams, regardless of what the score is, because it's so easy to score so many points. And while Starburst had the lead there, it's exciting to watch because it's completely tied, and you're like, oh, they can't just hang on. And if they just get wiped, it's over, and they got wiped, and then it was over. But Starburst, man, they had them. And if they forced a bracket reset, you can speculate all you want. I think they win. I think they do. I think that gives them the jolt of energy they need to push past it. And they got the whole chat behind them. Chat would have exploded if they forced a bracket reset, because it gave you that sense that, like, we North America are finally going to take down one of these monsters. And it didn't happen, but that's the closest we've come in so long that it gives you hope that it's going to happen at some point in Splatoon 3, that North America is going to produce something that can compete with Japan. And I guess we'll see them in the World Championships, so there's still more opportunities for them to go forward. I believe Ice tweeted out that they hadn't really practiced with Biscuit yet, which is interesting. I guess they just weren't available to practice. But if I get a new Ferrari, I want to test that sucker out. I'm driving that thing. I'm not going to just let it sit in the garage. I want to see what it can do. And, man, they really know. I think it was Beta in VC that was talking about, like, Biscuit's a really strong slayer, but you need to make sure you build pieces around it so that Biscuit can just take care of business that you need to win the games. And Starburst seems to really do a good job of setting the stage for Biscuit to be Biscuit. And I think bringing over Bagel to go with Biscuit as well is really smart. It's just, you look at the stats on the screen that we were showing up, who's getting all those kills? It's mostly Biscuit. Who's actually winning the game, though? It's Bagel. Who's riding the tower? Who's carrying the Rainmaker? Who's popping the specials? It's Bagel doing all the dirty work that wins the game. So those two together, combined with Ice and Brand, gives you the sense that this is one of the strongest rosters we've seen in out in the West. So going into Splatoon 3, that's going to be awesome to see. But today, the Kings reign supreme yet again. To nobody's surprise, but it wasn't as easy this time around. It was. Oh, and by the way, like I talked about, I don't really, like Starburst just seems head and shoulders above everybody else. They didn't play FT Win, but they still played Ice. They beat 3-1. They played Jackpot. They beat 3-1. And the rest of the time, they're just battling Japan. 4 tickets to victory in Kings. I mean, they played Unlimited Wumi United and beat them. That's a quality win now, we know. But yeah, they spent most of their time fighting Japan. So they are just the clear number 1 team. I don't think it's close. I said on the preview, it's Starburst or the field. It's Starburst or Starburst. You can't even pick the field at this point as far as teams in the West. It's not hard seeing them get the win in the World Championships. I'm not very versed in the scene of Japan, but that's a much easier tournament for them to win. It's just 3 rounds, single elimination. That's the format built for Starburst to be competitive. Now the problem is, like, what's the format? How many times can the teams from Japan pick splat zones? Because Starburst proved they can hang with them in splat zones now. But where Starburst picks up the ground is those tower control matches, is those Rainmaker matches. How many opportunities are they going to get to, like, make up losing ground on those other modes? I don't really know. But if Nine and Magic are commentating that set at some point, we'll be excited to see that. That's it. Hour and 18 minutes. We've done a lot. Hopefully this was a good synopsis. Hopefully this kind of cleared up some ways that people behind the scenes viewed this tournament. And of course, anytime you go on, there's always going to be misconceptions about tournaments and stuff like that. But transparency is always a nice thing. We try to be transparent here on the Popcast. Speaking of which, if you would like to be a part of the Popcast in any way, feel free to reach out to me in my socials below. Twitter, Mr._Popgun, Discord, Popgun, #5882, YouTube at 25Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25, Anchor.fm/Popgun, TikTok at Mr._Popgun. Who is streaming that we're going to raid today? Oh, Shadowrun from Max Morning. I type all that out correctly? I did. Hey, get vaccinated, wear a mask, stay safe, don't do anything stupid. We'll see you guys next week. Maybe we'll have Falco on. That's the goal, at least.